was 13 years old, sitting in the driver's seat of my mom's Subaru Outback. I was looking through the windshield at the snowbank that the car was totally wedged into. I had sweat dripping down the back of my neck. My hands were shaking, and I remember looking at my wrist to see that there was goat snot dripping down to my elbow. And despite all that, I still remember only being able to think about one thing. It was how unbelievably stupid I was for losing my chewing gum. So I am from a pretty weird part of the world called the US, from a weirder state called Utah, and I'm not going to pretend that somehow, despite all that, my family's normal. They're not. My family, well, they're a medical family. My mom's a nurse, my dad's an occupational therapist. And what that meant is that when we were kids, if any of us ever got hurt, our parents would be there to patch us back up. Our friends, family, extended family, neighbors, whoever, like it was kind of the same deal. If people were hurt, they would go to our house before they'd go to the hospital. And usually that worked out okay. I mean, sometimes my mom had to tell some mother to bring her bleeding child out of our house into the hospital. But we survived, for the most part. Now, another strange thing about my family is that we've always had a ton of animals. We've always treated our animals a lot like they were members of our family. We've had everything. We've had everything from your cats, dogs, to reptiles like snakes, frogs, turtles, lizards. We had rats, hamsters, guinea pigs, chickens, goats, sheep, horses, I mean, whatever, you name it. We had this kind of amateur petting zoo thing going on for most of the time that I was growing up. And like I said, my family, we really considered the animals to be part of our family. And so that meant that they got the same treatment. If our animals got banged up, well, usually before bringing them to the hospital, usually my mom would give it a try first. And luckily for everybody, there is a lot of animal and human medicine that overlaps. And so from the time that I can remember, really, we had this kind of multi-species trauma center aesthetic in our house that just kind of worked. I mean, it was normal. I remember coming back home from hockey practice late one night to find that our garage had been converted into what looked like a battlefield clinic. Our goats had been attacked by neighborhood dogs, and there were like bloody bandages, there was IV drip kits hanging from the ceiling, there were flickering lights, like heat lamps, like it was stuff of nightmares for most people, but kind of another day. So, I mean, I swear to God, I once watched my mom give CPR to a fish. Successfully. You know how like when normal parents might go out of town, they might ask their kids to like feed the cat, feed the dog. Yeah, us like pretty much the same thing. It'd be more like, hey, remember to feed the dog, feed the cat. Don't forget to change the horse's bandages because she had a lanced abscess yesterday. And don't forget to give the cat her nightly dialysis because of her kidney failure. If anyone wants to know what that was like, that meant I would have to chase our cat down, inject her with a needle, hook her up to an IV drip kit, and hold on to her as she slowly transformed into some kind of like cat water balloon thing. And would kind of just waddle off eventually. That's standard stuff. So when I was probably just starting high school, I remember I had just come home from school, and I heard my mom scream from our horse corral. She said, "Help!" I run outside thinking that my mom has fallen off her horse, and I look outside and I'm almost to the corral, and I see that my mom is standing above our family goat Murphy, kind of straddling over the top, and she's giving him chest compressions. If you can't visualize what it's like to give a goat chest compressions, that makes sense. I get that. Let me demonstrate for you. Goats have kind of like angular rib cages, so you gotta kind of do that. And I was a Boy Scout. I took CPR, and so as a germaphobe child, I was horrified to think about the next step in CPR, which is mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yeah, my mom, not phased, leans up and kind of holds the goat's mouth together, puts her lips over its nose in the crease of its mouth, and just starts. I'm shocked at it. I don't have time to really ask what's going on, because something's going on. But my mom looks at me and she says, "Tyler, thank God you're here. I've got to go get the car, we're going to the vet, take over. And I'm thinking, oh, no. But I don't have time to argue because my mom's already gone. And she's left me with this goat belly up. It's like slowly inflating. It's got like white foam coming out of its mouth and it's like green stuff dripping down its face. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ. But like, whatever, she's gone. All right, let's do it. So I kind of hop above the goat and I start giving him the chest compressions. And if you've taken a CPR class in the last while, you know, you can sing the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive, to keep time. You know, staying alive, staying alive. And at some point I realize I'm procrastinating a bit because I know that like the next step in this process is the realization of some of my darkest nightmares. And I lean over and I put my hands on Murphy's snout and I put my thumbs kind of on top of his nose so I don't have to put my lips on that gross thing. And I start going. And I realize in that moment that when I started giving Murphy his rescue breaths, I had gum in my mouth. I no longer had gum in my mouth. I realized that I have just rocketed a wad of chewing gum like into this goat's throat. And I'm shocked. I don't know what to do. Like, my mom's not here, but she didn't see also. And I don't have time to really forget either because at that moment she whips around the corner in the car, the hatchback's already open. She says, all right, Tyler, let's get the goat in the back of the car. So we lift Murphy into the back of the car. She hops in after him and says, all right, I'll take care of Murphy, you drive. I'm 13 at this time. I mean, even in the US, that's a little bit sketchy. But whatever, like, I had driven on some dirt roads before, I played some Grand Theft Auto. I was like, all right, let's do it. So haul out, take the first turn pretty well, take the second turn pretty well. It's the middle of winter, dead of winter. The roads are totally iced over. The third turn does not go as well. We slide out, I try to correct, we slide out even more, and we just go headfirst into this snowbank. And my mom and Murphy in the backseat, and like I hit my head on the steering wheel. And at some point now, the neighbors are starting to realize, like, something's happening outside. And reasonably, there's like a small child driving a car and a woman making out with a goat in the backseat. But you know, like, I know my family's weird, but I know that we're also a product of our environment. Because at that very moment, a man who we fondly refer to as Cowboy Charlie just happened to be driving by in his pickup truck. And Cowboy Charlie looks at what's going on, doesn't ask a single question, hops out of his truck, lifts the goat out of the back of my mom's car, throws him into the back of the pickup truck. My mom hops in the side seat of the pickup truck, and they're just gone. I'm sitting there by myself in this car that's just stuck. And again, neighbors are starting to look, and you know, despite what is completely illegal, like I'm not thinking about anything besides this gum. I know that like they're on their way to the vet, and when they get to the vet, they're gonna resuscitate this goat. And when they resuscitate this goat, it's gonna choke on this wad of gum and it's gonna die again. Like, I re-killed our family goat. So I'm having a moment, I mean, I'm freaking out, and eventually the neighbors help me kind of pull the car out. Sitting in the side seat of the car waiting for my mom to get back, and eventually she does come back. She is without Murphy. Murphy is super dead. And I'm just despondent. I mean, I can't think of anything but how I'm going to tell my mom what I've done. She starts driving. I'm not saying a word. And eventually I look over at her and I say, Mom, I got to tell you something. When I started giving Murphy his rescue breaths, I had gum in my mouth. And I lost my gum. And my mom looks at me, and with a sense of humor of a hardened medical worker, she looks at me and just starts to laugh. And not like casual laughing, like she starts to like wind it up, she starts belly laughing. She starts crying, she pulls the car over to keep laughing. And I'm over here sitting like freshly traumatized by all of this, thinking you're a psycho. And what could possibly be funny about any of this? She calms down a bit, looks at me and says, Tyler, you didn't kill Murphy. I killed Murphy. What's she talking about? Well, Murphy had had some kind of an infection, and my mom gave him a penicillin injection as an antibiotic, and Murphy apparently was allergic to penicillin. He died, like, immediately. Like, he went into anaphylactic shock, had a heart attack. My mom had been a nurse for, like, 30-something years at that point. She has seen a heart attack. She has seen anaphylactic shock. She knew exactly what had happened to Murphy. She knew that there was, like, no chance that she was going to save that goat's life. But yet she did all that. She gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and forced her germaphobe child to do the same thing. And so as I slowly recovered from all of this, I realized that if she were to do that for a goat, what would she have done for me? What would she have done for any one of my friends, family, anyone in this room? I mean, at the very least, the exact same thing. And in this day and age, with the way that the world is, being so far from home, that gives me a lot of comfort. And it's something I'm incredibly grateful for.